Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time watching and listening to this video. I am always here to share with you various aspects of life and health. Thank you for your companionship. Please share your thoughts below the video so I know you're here with me. Your feedback is a valuable source of motivation that energizes me to create more useful videos to share with you. Thank you. Have you ever sat quietly beside the bed of an elderly loved one, holding their hands that are marked with the traces of time, and wondered, how much longer will they be with me? It's a question no one wants to face, but at some point, it quietly knocks on the door of each of our hearts. At least once in our lives, we will stand at the fragile boundary between life and death of a loved one, and when that moment comes, we only wish we had prepared ourselves even a little emotionally so that we wouldn't fall into panic, confusion, or regret. The elderly, after a lifetime of dedication, care, and love, at the end of their lives, what they need the most is not expensive medicine, but the warm presence, understanding eyes, and gentle hands of their loved ones. But how can we know that they are truly entering the final stage of their life's journey? How can we avoid missing the silent signals their bodies are quietly sending? There are small, gentle signs, but they carry an incredibly important message, that they are about to leave this world. Recognizing these signs is not to make us fear, but to help us love more, care more completely, and above all, to help them depart in peace, without regret and without loneliness. If you have elderly grandparents or parents beside you, then the following shares are for you, like a gentle whisper amidst the rush of life. Slow down a little to feel, to understand, and to love more fully in the precious remaining time. Here are 5 signs that an elderly person is nearing the end of their life. Everyone should know them to prepare emotionally, not only for ourselves but also to accompany our loved ones in the most peaceful way possible in their final days. Please continue watching. Stay with me until the end, as what will be shared next can help you better understand your own body and your loved ones, as well as the natural changes over time. Don't rush to skip. The more you understand the causes, the better you can proactively improve the quality of your health. 1. Poor appetite or complete loss of appetite. Have you ever quietly watched a loved one, once the one who tirelessly took care of the family, now sitting silently at the dinner table, staring at the food without any desire to eat? Do you ever ask yourself, why doesn't Grandma eat anymore? This porridge is her favorite, or is she just too tired? Eating is one of the most basic survival activities for humans. So, when elderly people start eating less or completely stop eating, we often feel worried, frightened, and do everything we can to get them to eat again. But few know that this is one of the first and most common signs when their body begins to prepare for departure. As they enter the final stage of life, the organs in an elderly person's body gradually slow down. The digestive system weakens, the sensation of hunger disappears, and food becomes a burden rather than a necessity. They no longer find food appetizing and may even feel discomfort when eating. But as children and grandchildren, we all hope that our grandparents or parents will at least eat a little, drink some milk to gain strength, as a fragile hope to keep them with us a bit longer. I still clearly remember the story of Grandma Tu, a gentle 88-year-old woman who lived with her children and grandchildren in a rural village in the Mekong Delta. In her final days, she no longer wanted to eat anything. Her children and grandchildren took turns making her favorite dishes, from lotus seed porridge to pumpkin soup, trying to feed her spoonful by spoonful. They made milk, gently patted her shoulder, and softly pleaded, "Grandma, please try to drink a little so you have strength." But she just smiled faintly, her eyes clouded as if looking toward some distant place. After 5 days of not eating, only sipping a bit of water, she peacefully passed away one afternoon, still holding her daughter's hand. This story made many in her family realize a profound truth. Sometimes, love is not about holding on, but about gently letting go. When elderly people no longer want to eat, it is not necessarily a bad thing. It is simply their body's way of saying, "This journey is coming to an end, let me rest." So, instead of forcing them to eat, let them eat if they want, drink water if they can, and most importantly, be present beside them with your gaze, your voice, your gentle touch, so that they know they are not alone. A bowl of porridge may not make them feel better, but a tightly held hand, a whispered "Grandma, I'm here," can help them pass peacefully. 2. Sleeping a lot and being awake very little. Why is Grandpa sleeping so much? Is he tired? Doesn't he want to wake up and talk to us? These might be the familiar questions that loved ones softly ask beside the bed of an elderly person drifting in and out of sleep. Sleep, something that seems so normal, suddenly becomes a long, silent pause, causing those around to feel worried, confused, and deeply saddened. When the elderly are about to enter the final stage of life, their body begins to retreat. Each organ, each function gradually slows down, and the brain sends signals for rest. At this point, sleep is no longer just rest, but a way for the body to gradually disconnect from the outside world, a gentle transition from this world to the next. They sleep more, sleep deeper, and sometimes almost never wake up. When they do open their eyes, their gaze is distant and vague, as if they are just passing through this place briefly before continuing their journey to somewhere more peaceful. I once heard the story of Mr. Walter, a 90-year-old American man living in Oregon. He was a devoted father and grandfather, giving his life to his family. 3 weeks before he passed, he began to sleep more than usual. At first, it was a few hours in the afternoon, then it became an entire day of sleep. His children and grandchildren kept vigil by his bed, talking to him each day, recalling old memories, playing his favorite music, gently holding his hand. They hoped, just once, he would open his eyes and smile as he always did. But he only breathed lightly, his eyes closed, his face serene, as though he was drifting into a very distant dream. After 21 days, he passed away peacefully in his sleep, without a sigh, without a word of goodbye, as though he had completed everything he needed to do in this life, and now he was simply closing a chapter of his book. So, if your loved one is sleeping more and being less aware, don't worry too much or rush to wake them. This is how they rest, deeper, longer, to prepare for a new journey. Keep the space quiet and warm. Sit beside them, hold their hand, and say what you want to say, even if they don't respond. Because your familiar voice, your loving presence, will still seep deep into their consciousness, like a gentle farewell without needing words. And sometimes the deepest love is not about waking them up, but allowing them to continue sleeping, to depart in the most peaceful dream of their life. If you're still watching and find this information helpful, please leave a comment with the number 2 to let me know you're still here. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I recommend clicking the subscribe button and turning on notifications so you won't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue to create valuable content to provide information and inspiration for you. 3. Cold hands and feet, pale or bluish skin. Have you ever held the hands of an elderly loved one and been startled by how cold they are? Do you wonder, is it because of the cold weather? Or is there something wrong with their health? These questions are not just worries. They are natural, loving reactions when we notice the small but concerning changes in our loved ones. When an elderly person enters the final stage of life, changes in blood circulation are one of the most noticeable signs. The blood, instead of circulating evenly throughout the body, begins to concentrate on vital organs such as the heart, liver, and brain to sustain life until the very last moment. This causes their hands and feet to become cold, and the skin may become pale, gray, or take on a bluish tint, especially at the fingers and toes. Seeing these signs can be frightening. But in reality, this is simply a part of the natural process, the body silently preparing for its final journey. Recognizing this isn't meant to cause fear, but to help us understand that it's time to be by their side more, to be closer, and to love them even more fully. I once heard the story of Mrs. Eleanor, a 92-year-old American woman living with her small family in the suburbs of Vermont. One winter morning, her granddaughter discovered that her hands were icy cold, and her skin was pale despite the house being heated. The family immediately rushed her to the hospital. After an examination, the doctor spoke gently yet directly. Her body is gradually weakening. Blood circulation is slowing down, and this could be a sign of the final stage. The family should prepare mentally and spend more time with her. Those words acted as a wake-up call. In the following days, family members took turns visiting her at the hospital, sitting beside her, holding her cold hands, wrapping her in blankets, and gently massaging her fingers, not just to warm her, but to convey their silent love. There were no long conversations, only looks, smiles, and sometimes a tear softly falling. 15 days later, she passed away. No pain, no fear. She peacefully rested in the arms of her family, with hands that remained cold, but were warmed by all the love that could be given in her final days. So, if you notice your loved one's hands or feet suddenly becoming cold, or their skin changing color, don't immediately jump to thinking it's a medical issue. Instead, consider that their body might be quietly signaling that they are about to say goodbye to this world. And the best thing we can do is be by their side, gently, warmly, just as they have loved us throughout their lives. 4. Changes in breathing patterns, intermittent breathing. Have you ever sat beside a loved one and noticed a change in their breathing pattern? Sometimes they breathe slowly, heavily. Other times, their breath seems to stop for a few seconds, making your heart feel like it's stopping too, only to suddenly return, fragile like a soft breeze. This is not just breathing. It is a sign that life is gradually retreating, gently and silently. When a person is approaching the end of their life, breathing is one of the most obvious changes. Their breathing becomes irregular, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes interrupted and then returning. This phenomenon is called Cheyne-Stokes breathing, a characteristic sign of the dying process. At this point, your loved one may not be fully conscious, but each breath they take is the final connection between them and the world around them. In those precious moments, what matters most is not medication or advanced technology, but the presence of loved ones, being by their side, gently touching their hand, whispering a few kind words, and most importantly, not leaving them alone. I once heard the story of Mr. Harold, a 93-year-old man living in a nursing home in Pennsylvania, USA. One ordinary afternoon, his 2 children visited as usual. When they entered his room, something felt different. The air was heavy. He was lying still, his face pale, and the breath coming from his chest was heavier than ever. It was irregular, intermittent, as if he was struggling to breathe. A sense of unease led his children to quickly find the on-duty doctor. After an examination, the doctor gently informed them, "He is entering the final stage. His breathing has changed significantly. The family should prepare mentally and be with him in the coming days." From that moment on, his children took turns staying by his side. They didn't speak much, just sat by his bed, holding his frail hand, sharing old stories, and playing his favorite music. He didn't say anything, kept his eyes closed, but each heavy breath seemed to listen. They knew he was still there, feeling with his heart. And then, 10 days later, he quietly passed away, peacefully, without pain, enveloped in the love of his family. So, if you notice that your loved one is starting to breathe intermittently, don't panic. Stay with them, don't leave them alone. Help them lie on their side or in the most comfortable position. Keep the space quiet and warm. And most importantly, whisper in their ear that you are here, that you won't leave. For those at the threshold between life and death, their final breath will be much gentler if they are embraced with love. If you are still following and find this information useful, please leave a comment with the number 4 so I know you're still here. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I recommend you click the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue to create valuable content to provide information and inspiration for you. 5. Mental changes, talking nonsense, confusion, or signs of goodbye. Have you ever heard a loved one say strange things in their final days? Sometimes they talk about people who have been gone for a long time, as if they are conversing with them. Other times they repeat a sentence that you cannot understand. Or sometimes they become silent, as if preparing for a journey that only they know. These changes may confuse and worry us, but could they be signs of a gentle and loving departure? As a person enters the final stage of life, their mental state can change in unique ways. They may begin to talk nonsense, mention loved ones who have passed away, or become confused in their speech, as if they are in another world where past and present blend together. These are signs that they are preparing to depart, sometimes in a way that we, still bound to the present, cannot fully understand. What's important is not to argue or try to explain. Instead, listen and show them that you are here by their side in their final moments. Simply sitting next to them, holding their hand, and whispering that you love them, that you will never leave them, can provide immense comfort. I remember Ruth, a 94-year-old woman from the U.S., living in a nursing home in California. In her final days, she began saying strange things that her family couldn't understand. She often mentioned her husband, who had passed away more than 20 years ago, saying that he was waiting for her somewhere, in a very peaceful place, and that she would soon meet him. At times she would tell her children and grandchildren, "Mom has to go soon, don't worry, it's just a trip." But by then she wasn't fully alert enough to explain herself clearly. These were just soft, whispered words like a final goodbye. A week later she passed away in her peaceful sleep. Looking back, her family realized that her words, though difficult to understand, had brought immense comfort. She was no longer afraid, no longer worried about the separation, because she had prepared herself and was ready to embark on a new journey. So, if your loved one begins saying strange things or suddenly becomes silent, don't worry or argue. Listen, gently hold their hand and let them feel that they are not alone. These farewell words, though unclear, might be their way of preparing for the departure, in the most loving and gentle way possible. In those final moments, your presence is the most valuable gift you can offer them. Have you ever thought about preparing for the departure of a loved one? Surely none of us wants to face that moment, the moment we must say goodbye to someone we love. But sometimes, life doesn't always go the way we want it to. And at that time, what matters is not avoiding the pain, but how we can embrace that departure with the most peaceful heart. Every time I think about saying goodbye, I ask myself, am I prepared enough to face this loss? Have I cared for and loved my loved ones enough? These are not easy questions to answer, but one thing I understand clearly is that mental, emotional, and knowledge-based preparation will help you navigate the pain of loss more gently. When we know that the departure of a loved one is inevitable, what we can do is prepare for ourselves, for the family, and most importantly, for our loved one. This doesn't mean giving up hope or enduring in silence. On the contrary, it's preparing to face the truth so that we can care for, love, and be there for them in their final days with a truly full heart. Remember, in the final moments of a person's life, what they need is not hurried prayers, but our presence, gentle hand-holding, and sincere comforting words. When you do this, you will never regret not doing something for them. What about you? How have you prepared for the departure of a loved one? Ask yourself, have I spent enough time with them? Have I loved them enough so that when they leave there is nothing left to regret? Mental preparation is not only for the one leaving but also for yourself, so that when they move on to another world, you can bid them farewell with serenity, peace, and without being burdened by regrets. Finally, live fully in every moment spent with your loved ones. These moments will be priceless memories, the greatest comfort when we must face loss. Don't let the final days of a loved one become a void of unspoken words or actions left undone. Give your full love so that when they leave you carry no regrets. Thank you for taking the time to listen and join us on this journey of understanding the 5 signs that an elderly person is nearing their departure, which everyone should know to prepare. We hope these insights have helped you better understand the body of your loved ones and your own. If you found this video useful, please leave a comment and share your experience. Who knows, your story might help someone else. We would love to hear your feedback. Please leave a comment below about what you learned today and how you plan to apply it in your life. Your opinions are very important to us, so don't hesitate to share. Reading your comments is a great encouragement for us. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe to the channel and share. Your support helps us continue to create quality content to inform and inspire you. Wishing you and your family good health and peace. See you in the next videos.